everyone, and welcome back to Sunday Reads with Renee here at Simply Renee. My name is Renee. I want to thank everyone who has liked, shared, commented, subscribed, and to my channel. I truly appreciate it as it helps me to grow. And before I begin, I just want to let everybody know that I am struggling with a sinus infection headache still. I'm in the recovery process right now. I'm feeling much better than I did a while ago, but it still has a little bit of congestion up there. Therefore, my voice sounds a little bit different, and you might be seeing more editing and cuts here in this video than you have in my past videos, so I just want to let everyone know that ahead of time. And also, if you are new here, I do 3 videos a week. I do a food-related video on Friday, a random video on Wednesday, whether that's just some things I like to talk about, or day in the life, weekend in the life, or other things so that I do randomly for Wednesdays. And I give some financial tips. And on Sundays, I do reading type topics. I do a double book review twice a month, and the other 2 times a month is just random topics and discussions as well, along with book recommendations. And next week, I'm going to be doing a roundup review of the books I read for spring 2026. And I also do random shorts here and there. I keep trying to put more out, but it's been delayed, especially with this sinus infection headache I'm still recovering from. But I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview if you're new here, and I thank you so much for tuning in and hope you will subscribe and continue to watch me grow. Today's double book review is 2 nonfiction works. One is Frostbite by Nicola Twilleyr, and the other is Milk, a 10,000 Year Fracas by Mark Kurlansky. And these are 2 books that I really enjoy, and they're nice food-related topics, and I hope you will enjoy these reviews. Before I begin, though, I just want to let everyone know I will be revealing plot details, therefore spoilers are ahead. And I also will be using YouTube rules and regulations with different types of words and phrases as a result, so please be on the lookout for that. The first one is Frostbite by Nicola Twilleyr, which was published in 2024. And this is one that I really loved and enjoyed because it's so much about how the refrigerator has shaped and benefited us in so many ways that help to really give this appliance value. But it also shows and details the positive and the negative sides of creating this type of appliance and what it did for us. And it did a lot. You know, it helped to preserve our food longer. It changed the way we eat food and handle food, and it changed our entire lives. At the same time, there are some negative effects here which have an environmental impact, as well as promoting more food waste and other topics that she goes into with this book. And it is a great work that really does delve into that, and it's a lot of interesting information as well. A lot of the positive sides in Frostbite is that it talks about how it helped to preserve our food and beverages much longer, allowed us 24/7 access to edible consumption right in our homes, which is a perfect thing. We have this beautiful fridge that helps to preserve these longer, so that way they're not doing shorter spans compared to older works or different methods of preservation that happened many centuries ago. So there's a lot of good things about that entirely. And the other thing, too, is that it really helped to go into a lot of different types of processing methods. And the processing methods that Twilley talks about here shows a lot about what it did for foods such as beef, bananas, and other vegetables. In the case of bananas, they did a lot of different types of temperature controls for it so they could be kept ripe and fresh. They did a lot of different things, too, with sealed packaging for lettuce and spinach. So if you want fresh spinach and lettuce that lasts a little longer, they do sealed packaging for that. So that way the oxygen and carbon monoxide is diffused, and that way it's kept well in a temperature-controlled room. So that way you're able to eat it fresh and keep it fresh in your fridge as well, even when it's unsealed, but it keeps it nice and strong and sturdy. So there is a lot of great things about the processing method that I thought was very fascinating in this book, because I honestly never thought very much about that. I never really took that into account. And I really liked the process of the science behind it. I'm not a huge science person, so learning about the fridge and how that works with temperature controls and how it keeps our food preserved longer, but the processing method we go through in order for it to be benefited by the fridge and temperature controls and kept fresh was a very positive thing that I really liked about the refrigerator history, but also about what it does for my body and everyone else's as well, and how this food is preserved and kept nice and fresh longer, and how it helps to last longer too, giving us all this access to good nutrition. On the other hand, Twilley does talk about the negative sides of the refrigerator, which I think are important, and some of that is food waste. Even though you're having this food be preserved longer in the refrigerator, you're also creating a unnecessary process of food waste because not everything is meant to last forever in the refrigerator. So sometimes it can go bad really quickly, or something could happen with the fridge, which makes it a little bit worse, and therefore you have to throw out the food. So it's more about trying to find the ones that fit the fridge well and consuming it a little bit quicker and planning yourself a little bit better in that regard. And the other negative side effect, which is very important, is the environmental impact. And that is very true. As great as fridges have been, as valuable as this appliance has been, it does release a lot of toxic substances into the air. It does have a lot of negative effects with different types of parts. And when the fridge completely breaks down, you need to replace it. It does cause some problems in the recycling process and how it's gotten rid of in that regard. So there is an environmental impact. We all need fridges now for different reasons because it preserves our food longer. It's a big staple in everyone's home, apartment, and other residences. But there is that negative side of an environmental impact and a food waste. Something that I did find that was fascinating in a negative aspect outside of that, though, was the fact that the fridge led to a reduced consumption on fermented foods, which actually resulted in us having more gut inflammation. I never really put two and two together with that, but it does make sense a little bit because there was a preservation process before fridges became the norm where you ate a little bit more fermented foods than anything else, and you had all this preservation as a result of that in terms of salt consumption. But it did lead to some gut inflammation. It caused some problems there. So it's more about trying to find different ways in order to think about what the fridge is value to us, but what it also has caused for us in a negative way. So a lot of that is very interesting, and it's why I love this book. It's actually the best nonfiction work I read in 2024 when I read it. I think it's a very fascinating work. I think Twilley does a lot of great research, detail, and writing into this, and it's really quite fascinating. Again, I'm not a big science person. I don't think about it very much, but when it's written well and it intrigues me with the topic, I really just get myself heavily invested in it. So if you're going to read a great book about this type of appliance or this type of writing, then I recommend Frostbite. I think it's a great work, and it really just goes into a lot of detail about things that are very fascinating about the refrigerator and its positives and negatives. The next one is Milk, a 10,000 Year Fracas by Mark Kurlansky, published in 2018. And this is one I liked because it was mostly just a basic history about the milk and the evolution of it and how it has affected our daily lives from ancient times up until the present day. And this book covers a lot of those topics. It covers everything from those ancient times to the industrial evolution to the present day, a lot of it going over the value of milk, how we use it for consumption, but also for different things, such as making cheese and yogurt, how we use it in recipes for cakes and other products. And it also goes into a lot of detail about the changes with the evolution of milk, how it was pasteurized just a little more than 100 years ago, as well as how it really has affected and changed a lot of things. It goes into how foodborne illnesses were a danger, so we had to figure out how to do the pasteurization for milk to help people out and make sure they didn't get sick from it. And it also goes into food politics and the advocacy for raw milk and different types of forms of dairy if you have lactose or you're looking for a different alternative because of the way your body reacts to it. Some people do oat milk and almond milk as a result. So there's a lot of interesting information in milk itself. I think it actually is a very well-researched, well-written, highly detailed book, and I do recommend this one because it is so highly detailed. That's the thing that I liked most about the book, and for at least found most interesting, is the fact that the pasteurization process is such a relative new phenomenon. It only happened a little bit over 100 years ago because they saw that things weren't going well with milk for a lot of different reasons, especially foodborne illnesses. So they really had to think of, hey, how can we get milk to be consumed still and used in these different types of recipes and everything with cheese, yogurt, and desserts. But how do we go about doing that? So it is a relative new phenomenon, and this is just how they did it with the pasteurization method, so that way people could still consume it and not get sick off it, hopefully. But it also goes into a little bit more detail about how there's been some negative effects with milk and keeping it fresher, is just using genetics and GMOs, which have been understandably controversial and up to debate. And so I think there's a lot to really unpack in milk, and that vast history of the product and how it has really affected us in both positive and negative ways. And I really enjoyed too how Kurlansky put a lot of recipes into this just to show how long milk has been used as an ingredient for so many different things, whether that's cheese, yogurt, pudding, daily consumption, and just how long we've been using it ever since ancient times. So milk is a very valuable source of nutrients as well for consumption, as well as different types of recipes. And it benefits us and it has some negative effects, but it more, from what I gather, benefits us than anything else. Milk is one that I highly recommend because I do think it is well written. It has a lot of detail and research to it. And you can tell that Kurlansky really took a lot of time to get everything together and put it all into this book and this work. And I really enjoyed it when I read it in 2020. And I still think it is a good book that I still remember being great. And it's wonderful that we have so many more nonfiction works being published that really go into the history of different types of food products and everything like that, because it's a little bit more than just history. You can also learn about food and people, as well as music and how things have changed over time. And that's why I like nonfiction in general. It's various different topics. So I do recommend Milk because I think it is a great work, and I hope you enjoy. And this concludes the double book review of Milk, 10,000 Year Fracas, and Frostbite. I both enjoy these books highly, and I do recommend them. But now tell me what you think. Have you read these books? Did you like them or dislike them? Do you agree with me, not agree with me? Are there ones similar to it that you can recommend? Please let me know in the comments below, as I welcome all discussions. I thank you again so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell. I'll be back next Sunday with a Sunday Reads video, this time going over all book reviews of the Spring Reads for 2026 list I have, and revealing my Summer 2026 list. I still have a little bit to go, so hopefully I can finish in time and give you good book reviews and let you know what I think about all the books that I read. I'll also be back on Wednesday with a regular video and Friday with a food video and putting out some more shorts. Hopefully this sinus infection headache will be gone completely because I still have some nasal congestion there. And I thank you so much for tuning in and sticking with me. I thank you so much for tuning in again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.